here in the Fantasy Zone interview area. John Ritchie, Kay Adams, and we welcome in Richie's old buddy, Dana Jacobson of CBS Sports.
Old buddy with stories.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you. Now, who pays more? Because, then I can share the stories.
I will pay $1 more than whatever he gives you to hear some of these stories.
I can't wait to hear
But
them.
before we even get there, I have a bit of a bigger issue.
Yes.
You used to play fantasy football, Dana,
Yes.
and now you don't. What's the problem?
Well, I mean, the truth is I was a poor sport. So when I was losing, I finally had one of those seasons where I'm like, I should win. I know all this stuff. So I'm done. I'm not playing. Forget it. So my friends were like, if you leave, you're done. You're not allowed back in.
Oh, really?
Fine,
It's
I'm
like
out. I'm
that?
out. Yes.
When was this?
So this is now like got to be 5 years. So I left the next year. Then I'm like, I want back in. No, you left. You can't. But
Start your own league. We'll be in it.
well, see, this is what I decided, though. My life, our lives are fantasy football. You have to know everything.
It's true.
So instead, I get to just root for my Lions. That's my excuse now. That's but truly, like, you get to enjoy it differently. Like, the way people love fantasy because you're focused in on so many guys. That's what I do. So I'd rather focus on my team, I think.
You're from Detroit.
I'm like, I don't think.
You're like,
I'm going to convince you by the end of this
Yeah, I'm
interview.
trying to convince myself
got
of that.
it.
From Detroit,
Yes.
huge Lions fan.
Huge win Thursday.
Amazing.
That
Over
was
my Bears,
something.
by the way. So
I would say I'm sorry.
for
I'm
Dana.
so not sorry.
Good.
You're picking up on a different vibe there with Jim Caldwell in
Totally
charge.
different. Totally different. And I was really lucky because I got to cover the Patriots-Lions game. So I got to actually talk to some of them about that culture change. And they've all said it's like accountability, that they can't. They're just held to a different standard. They can't get away with what they got away with. Everybody's held to the same standard. So Matthew Stafford's late for practice. It's the same punishment as some guy on the practice team.
Wow.
He's calling out the offensive coordinator in practice if he doesn't like the play calls, and then Joe Lombardi's getting called out. So you sit there as a player and you
Nice.
realize everybody has to be held to the
That's
same
so
standard.
surprising to me because I felt like when Jim was with Peyton,
Right.
You know, I felt like Peyton was running the show, and Jim would just be standing on the sideline, you know, calm, collected. I didn't know that he had that
But I
sort
think
of
he does.
power that he wields.
And I think he has it behind the scenes, and he makes it feel. They've told me, I think it was, Rob Sims told me it's like this family atmosphere there, and that everybody feels like you're like representing your brother and you're holding this guy up. And I think when you start having that, he's created that, and he's said this isn't acceptable anymore. Maybe with Peyton it was different, but he knew going into this Lions team that something wasn't working. The penalties and all those things were, if you're not going to be disciplined off the field, you're not going to be disciplined on the field. So it's almost like he knew he had to do this.
Got Atlanta in the 2 box. Dana Jacobson hanging out here in DirecTV's Fantasy Zone studios, and you're talking about a familyhood and accountability. You do a radio show with Tiki Barber. Are you guys like brother and sister vibe a little bit?
We are. And when we are alone on the show together, because there are 3 of us,
Yeah.
Brandon Tierney works with us. When it's the 2 of us, we're like wacky siblings. We're like, I might actually be a little like John can be sometimes. We just get weird and stupid. I mean, but in a good, funny, smart way. Something like that. Yeah, he's great. He's fun to work with. And he has these like great stories that you'd expect from a pro athlete, but then he has these ridiculous, goofy, nerdy stories.
He's a really
I can
smart
see
guy.
that.
He is, but he's also just very down to earth. Loves everything from family to like hanging out. He'll tell me stories about being with his baby or his kids, and you're like, it's just a different guy.
I always felt like
Speaking
he
of-
was
no,
so
no, no.
serious.
You're done. Speaking of stories, we're talking First Take. You guys work together.
Those were the days.
I need to hear, like, you got to give me something, Dana.
Okay, I have 2 things that I remember. I know one of these. So do you remember doing yoga? So we would tell
wears
John.
Lululemon
was
pants every
So
day.
this was, we would do like, what's the yoga position for this coach? So John and I are out there on yoga mats doing like downward dog and
In a
child's
suit.
pose.
In a suit.
In a suit.
Yeah, it was bad.
Well, you could do it
news.
now.
It was bad. I don't even know.
This looks comfy.
Like
Why
child's
downward
pose.
dog?
He also channeled guys too.
What's Bill Belichick's yoga position?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
One that's very still
Long
and
ago-
abrasive.
Yeah, still and abrasive.
Something like that.
The infant, I don't know. The
Child's pose.
Child pose. I can't even
Tree.
remember. That was so long ago. The channeling was
That
really
was fun,
cool
too.
because I got to act out different players, different coaches.
Can
Yeah.
you channel somebody in this
Why don't you
afternoon
channel Tom
game?
Coughlin right now?
Could
He
you
has to be
please-
a little upset
Absolutely.
today.
That's
Yeah.
a very good call.
I think-
No, I was. I can't do the Tom Coughlin. I was going to do like a Tony Romo.
Go for it.
Which is
Whatever
like
you
a-
can do.
Oh yeah, he did used to do this.
I'm terrified right now.
Yeah, I'm biologically 60 years old, but yeah, nothing's going to stop me from playing, you know?
This was the best part. This was because everyone would start with a,
yes.
I'm channeling, I've got him, and actually, and I always said this, one of the smartest guys I know, who I'm looking at, is John, and a great writer. So he'd come up with like these ridiculous, when we gave him time to do it, versus putting him on the spot.
Well, yeah, I just wrote it all in advance. That was cool.
It was fun, and you had some wackiness, but I just loved hanging out with him too.
Off the wall.
All right, well, currently you have a show on CBS Sports Network called We Need to Talk. It's an all-female panel. Tell us about that. It's incredible.
It's really interesting. So it was launched with the idea being we don't have women sitting around talking about sports. We have all these shows that you might have a woman here or there, but it's never all women and behind the scenes all women.
Never seen anything like that.
So
it's
that's
behind
what
the
we
scenes
do.
all women as well?
All women behind the scenes, producing, directing.
Wow.
And so we're sort of a work in progress in some sense because we're a weekly show, and we'll cover the topics of the week, and we're learning how we can best do that. We'll do a couple interviews. We'll bring in, somebody who's topical for that week. We had Bruce Arians on one of the weeks a couple weeks ago when I was doing the show. But then we also debate topics, and it's just women debating is different than men debating.
How?
There's a little more, consideration. Women won't tend to jump in as much, which as somebody who's always worked with men, I'm like, come on, like jump in and
Let's go.
Yeah.
But it's also a little more thought-provoking on issues you wouldn't have thought. They'll go to a different side of it, where men might go right away to X's and O's. I know women hate hearing this, but sometimes we'll go X's and O's straight to a different storyline, to something else. And these women that are on the show with me, it's such a mix. So we'll have like Layla Ali Tracy Wolfson is on. Well, it's like Tracy Wolfson, Allie LaForce, Andrea Kramer, myself on this like reporting studio anchor side, and then you have Layla Ali and Summer Sanders and Dara Torres and Swing Cash, and these women who, when you talk about Tony Romo, this was a great conversation we had. It wasn't just, should Romo be playing? Dara Torres is like, I remember getting a shot so I could go out and swim, and I couldn't feel my arm later, but I was going to take that shot. And somebody else talking about Layla saying, I would do anything to get back in the ring. I understand not being concerned. And I don't think you expect to hear that from women still.
Is there
I think
more
it's just
of an emotional side to sports that you're delving into?
Storyline driven.
Storyline.
I think it's a different perspective.
Yeah, and I think we do go towards the storylines. When we started, everything was going on with Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson and had been going on for a while. So we obviously addressed that right away. The first show was like incredibly emotional, actually, and 3 of the women on the show admitted to being in abusive relationships and had never talked about it before. Think about that.
This is groundbreaking stuff.
3 women of these amazing athletes that, I remember saying to them, you've won gold medals. You are so accomplished and you're powerful and strong. To say that has such an impact. But then we'll go and have fun, and we were, talking about last-minute shots and plays. So it's this great mix where you do get emotion, but even just fan emotion. Because some of the women there will say, Summer Sanders, that's who you need. Huge fantasy football player, and is mad probably at me that I don't play anymore. But she
that's 4 people in a league right there.
There we go. We can play.
4 more. We can do a quick 18er.
She was that's right. She is a Stanford gal. But she'll say sometimes, I'm not as much of a diehard into this sport, but I'm a fan of it. And I love hearing her talk as a fan, whereas I'll come at it sometimes as, well, I've covered these teams for a while, so I'm not putting the fan perspective on it.
I just love the different perspective. I think that's incredible.
I'll tell you what, it sounds like a fascinating show.
It is. It's fun.
We Need to Talk. There's Tuesdays at 10 Eastern on CBS Sports Network, and you guys have a year-end show on December 27th,
That's
I believe.
And that's going to be actually on CBS. So it's going to be some of the top stories of the year. We're starting to talk about it. I think there's some guests that might surprise some people out there. So it'll be on CBS, and there'll be about 6 or 7 of us, I think, on that show. It's usually 4, but I think we're going to squeeze a few more in.
Did you want to say an embarrassing story about her before she leaves?
Embarrassing story? There's nothing that you can say embarrassing about Dana.
So you paid him real well. Good,
No,
interesting.
I would never dress up as a cheerleader for Ohio State and cheer at a game.
I just like the yoga. I'm going to make you do yoga every week.
But you have to do it with him. Maybe that was the embarrassing part. I didn't have to do it, and I got down and did that with him.
It was, and I'm not good. I was toppling. I was sweating profusely. It was very embarrassing.
It was awesome.
All right, so great to have you. Dana Jacobson, check her out. That We Need to Talk year-end special on CBS on December 27th, and it airs on CBS Sports Network as well. We're going to take you now live back, Arizona, Atlanta, in the ATL.
And they're playing a pretty good